How does exercise affect blood sugar levels? Hi, my name is Lourdes Dorvilus, and I am a student in Professor Maria Mendoza's Chemistry 1 class. So, for my project and my research, I decided to do the molecule glucose. And interestingly enough, I realized that glucose is a combustion reaction. But in the sense of our human biology or anatomy, glucose is just more than a combustion of energy. If you read up on the Krebs cycle, you will realize glucose is the major source of energy for the human body. So what that means is that whenever you eat something that contains glucose, and I'm going to explain what glucose is, your body uses it and it stores it in the form of energy, and that's why you see the ATP, the 36 ATP energy there, because adenosine triphosphate, it's the molecule that's there to help glucose in the body to be stored. So let's talk about it. What is glucose? Glucose is a simple sugar. It's sugar in its simplest form. And when I say simple sugar, I'm not talking about table sugar, because table sugar is sucrose. Glucose is a sugar that is created from the byproducts of photosynthesis in plants. And that's why we're able to find glucose in nature. And in nature, glucose is called D-glucose. So take potatoes, for example, or wheat, for example. When you refine it or when you cook it, it releases glucose. So when you consume it, those carbs, the carbs you consume becomes glucose in your body. So it's readily absorbed into your bodies versus a fruit or honey, which is fructose. Although it is sugar, it's not sugar in its simplest form. So if you were to consume those type of sugars, it takes your body a little bit longer to break it down. But is that an excuse for us to consume so many carbohydrates? Not just yet. And I'm going to explain why it's not an excuse. Because when you eat something that has carbs, your body has to do something with all that extra sugar and all that extra energy. So what happens is this really cool, interesting thing. Your pancreas releases a hormone called insulin. And what insulin does, it just basically allows glucose to travel through certain cells so they can be stored for later use when you need energy. Like when you have to work out, when you need to go running, or you have to do a simple skill that requires muscle memory, for example. So once the insulin is secreted and the glucose is stored, the pancreas level out your blood sugar, your blood glucose levels, and it stops secreting. So you're back at a normal flow. But what happens over time if you are consuming so much carbohydrates? If you guess that you become insulin resistant, you thought right. Over time, you can damage the function of your pancreas by consuming so much glucose. No wonder why the media is, talking about why it's important to have a diet. And when I say diet, I don't mean like a plan that you do and you stop, but a diet where, you consistently have low carbs, because low carbs decreases the effect of you developing blood sugar glucose. And let's be honest, we live in a world where we want everything fast. So instead of cooking our own meals, we typically find it more convenient to order a number one from McDonald's. And we know a number one from McDonald's have so many carbs, like the bread in that Big Mac, the sauces, and don't get me started on the fries and the soft drink. That's so much carbs, especially all at once. So imagine eating that every day of your life until like you get a certain age and your body is like, you know what, I cannot anymore. How much glucose you consume does not equate to how much insulin I can provide. And that's why you have some individuals that have to supplement with, giving themselves an artificial or medical created insulin. But on the other hand, you have hypoglycemia, and hypoglycemia means low blood sugar. And when you have low blood sugar, you are resistant to insulin. And when you're resistant to insulin, it's difficult for your body to break down sugar. So you still have to basically monitor how much carbs or how much things with sugar you are consuming. In addition to that, in America and American societies, I feel like diabetes is becoming a pandemic, if it's safe to say that, because, more than likely, or you have heard of someone that suffers from either type 1 or type 2 diabetes. And if you see the controversy that the total economic cost of individuals diagnosed with diabetes in 2007 is $327 billion, and in 2012 was $245 billion. And that means that's a substantial burden that diabetes imposed on us, on society. You know what I would do with that much money? I would pay off my school loans and my house. But that's just something to think about. Now, when I conducted my experiment, I hypothesized that when I exercise, that my blood glucose level would not change, right? And when I exercise, it would only change if I eat foods high in sugar or carbs, right? But sorry to say, my hypothesis was wrong. It was inconclusive, because as you see by the graph, if you see everything in blue before breakfast, that is my blood glucose level before I ate, when I just awoke in the morning. And you can see that it's between, the low 80s to mid 90s per se. But the moment I ate, depending on what I ate, that you can see in the notes section all the way to your right, my blood glucose level will increase after eating. So I also realized what I ate determined how much my blood glucose level increased by. But what was interesting to note is, after exercising, once I completely, digested my food, I exercised for 20 minutes each morning. And immediately after exercising, I would test maybe the next hour just to make sure I get an accurate result. And my blood glucose level significantly decreased. Guys, I mean, like, significantly decreased. Not decreased in a sense where I had low blood sugar, but it decreased in a sense where my body was regulated and the ranges were normal. So that just goes to show how exercise correlates to blood glucose level. So I was able to infer that when you exercise, it can positively affect your blood sugar levels, which can keep it at or within a normal range, unless if you're diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, where I would suggest you speak to a medical professional before even starting an exercise plan, or so they can tell you the best way to exercise. But overall, I was satisfied with this experiment because it allowed me to not only reflect about my own personal health goals, but just in general, we have to make smart choices when it comes to our livelihood. So I was grateful that I was able to do this experiment, because I wouldn't have seen how crucial it is to not only eat low carb food, but to keep a daily habit of exercising I mean, let's be honest. I wouldn't want to, you know, impose or make myself susceptible to get type 1 diabetes. Like, who wants to stick themselves? I mean, if that's what you do, is fine. I'm not judging. But if you can prevent it, then the best approach would be to eat a diet low in carbs and to be as active